Hi everyone, Adrian Groenewald, Leadership Platform, and welcome to Global Leadership Platform. This is our Global Leadership Conversation 2. We've had one all over the world, and this is our second one that we're having with some of the same people and some new people. This is now done under hashtag 2020DAL, which stands for 2020 Decade of Authentic Leadership. And the intention is, over the next decade, we turn the tide on weak, toxic, and incompetent leadership. But in essence, it is to grow authentic leaders. That's what we want to do, is to grow authentic leaders in this decade, more than ever before, faster than ever before, better than ever before. And we need to do things differently if we're going to get that right. We can't do the same things over and over. So I'm interviewing leaders and leadership experts all over the world, and hopefully on every continent. Today with me is Dave Boreham from MCA Training International. He's been developing leaders all over Africa and even beyond. He's the CEO of MCA Resources Group. He's an adaptive leadership consultant, a life and business coach for executives, professional speaker and author, and much more. Father, grandfather, human being, and loyal to good leadership principles. Dave Boreham, good to have you with us.
Adrian, nice to be with you again. Thanks for having me back.
Dave, before we kick off, and of course later in the interview, you'll share a leadership principle that leaders can adopt or incorporate in their lives. But before we go there, let's just get on the same page. If you can describe to us what an authentic leader looks like, we'd really appreciate that. And do you believe that these are the kind of leaders we need in today's world, where we seem to have a leadership gap, a leadership crisis? Describe an authentic leader.
Yeah, Adrian, to me, an authentic leader is somebody who's able to manage themselves and their relationships with others so that they can actually live their intentions, their values. You know, you tend to find that there are a lot of leaders out there who don't really know what their values are, number one. And therefore, they try to be everything to everybody else because they want to be popular, they want to be liked, and they want to feel that they are important and that everybody loves them and so on, but they're not true to themselves. So for me, an authentic leader is somebody who's able to manage themselves and their relationships with others so that they can live their values or their intentions.
Okay. All right. Now, when we look at that, then my question to you is, is that what we need in this world that we live in? I mean, I think the logical answer is yes, but maybe expand for a second.
Yeah, sure. You know, Adrian, we don't just need it, we need it desperately. Unfortunately, today we have so many leaders who are leading for the advantage that they can get out of the leadership role that they have. They're not really leading to serve. They don't serve the people that they're supposed to be influencing and developing and empowering and so on. So we have a lot of leaders who are in there for self-gain, and they take as much as they possibly can. If you recall in our, in our previous chat that we had together, I used an analogy of the empty bottle and the full bottle. And I mentioned that the empty bottle, you can squeeze it because there's nothing in there. The full bottle you can't do that. And the same principle applies to leadership. You find that you have a lot of leaders who have everything on the outside, but there's very little on the inside. And please understand, as a result of that, they don't have the capacity to lead. That person who's empty on the inside cannot give, because in giving, psychologically, they believe they're actually losing. So rather than give, they take, and they keep on taking. The challenge, however, is that they're trying to fill this void on the inside, on the outside, and therefore it never ever gets filled. And so they keep on taking, and they keep on taking, and they keep on taking. When we develop the kind of authentic leader that I just mentioned, and the kind of person who's able to really manage himself or herself and their relationships with others so that they can live their intentions, their values, you tend to find that they have the character on the inside. And because they have it on the inside, they're able to give it to others. And what I mean by that, Adrian, is when people say, what do you mean by on the inside? Well, the inside really starts at the thing of self-belief, phenomenal personal self-belief, the ability to put that belief into action, which is the faith that they require, the confidence that comes from that, And then the self-trust, love, acceptance, and respect by doing the things that are aligned to their values, their intentions. Because if I do things that are aligned with what I value, I immediately learn to trust myself. I immediately learn to love and accept and respect myself. And I can't give something to somebody else unless I have it within myself.
Mm.
So we're told in the good book that we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. And that's the biggest problem, because most people don't. And therefore they feel threatened by their neighbors. So rather than being able to give, they take. And they're all looking after themselves. And this unfortunate feeling of me is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in the world. It's becoming more focused on me. And so we see the social medias proliferating, where I take a photograph of myself and I put it out there and I see how many likes I get. The only people that need that are people who don't like themselves. Because when you like yourself, you don't have to prove that to anybody else.
Mm.
And those are the authentic leaders that we have. And therefore, they can be true to you, they can be true to the next person, they can be true to the following person, etc., etc. They don't have to be different to each particular person.
Dave, I think in giving your quality answer there, you somewhat answered the second question, which is, how big is the gap between what you've described and what we're actually finding out there in practice, politically, in business, in society, in schools, in families? I mean, it seems like we do have a lot of those all about me leaders, and selfishly driven, unsure about their values. But how big would you say is the gap? Do you want to add to that?
You know, the thing is, Adrian, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. And you know, by saying that, I'm not sitting here with you and pretending that I'm this perfect leader, because it's a process. It's an ongoing process of learning, unlearning, and relearning. The problem, however, is that it's an absolute massive gap. And the reason for that, Adrian, is that people are so unaware. And if I'm unaware, if I don't know that I don't know, I can't change it. Therefore, I just continue behaving the way I've always behaved. It's only when I'm prepared to admit that I need to change that I can actually change. But it's far easier for leaders to distort and to deny the truth than to accept it and to change. Yet change, or shifting if you like, is a key skill of top leaders, authentic leaders. They have the ability to change because they know they need to change. So to move from an unconscious mindset, if you like, to a conscious mindset, becoming more aware. And most leaders today are extremely unaware. When I say to leaders that the biggest challenge we have in the world today is lack of people's self-belief, they look at me and they don't know what I mean by that. But everything comes back to that. It's people not believing enough in themselves that they can actually change their situation or make a difference.
So powerful. Okay, Dave, I mean, I'm interested, and everyone else would be, in what are you doing at the moment? What is your business doing to close this gap that we talk of out there in this world? And particularly, how will that help us in the next decade, this authentic leadership revolution that we've launched to somehow do something different and turn around this tide? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, well, you know, Adrian, one of the big things that is really important is what I said earlier on, is consciousness, self-awareness, if you like. It's number one, it's being aware of what my values really are. Do I know consciously what my values are? My experience has taught me that most people subconsciously know what they value, but consciously they don't. There are, of course, people that know consciously what they value. And because most people don't know consciously what they value, they often compromise their values. When you know what you value and you get into a situation where your values could be compromised, it's a no-brainer. You don't go there. But when you're not quite sure what your values are, it's easy to compromise. It's easy to go there. The problem, however, intellectually or emotionally, I should say, or spiritually, whichever way you want to look at it, is the minute I go against what I value, I lose trust, love, acceptance, and respect for myself as a human being.
Mm.
It's an ongoing thing. And until I start to understand what my value system is and align what I do to what I value, I never change that. In other words, the minute I align what I do, my actions, to what I value as a human being, I learn to trust, I learn to love, I learn to accept, I learn to respect. Now, it's an ongoing process of growth.
Mm.
But the more I learn to trust, love, accept, and respect myself, it's now from the inside. I'm able to give that.
Mm.
I'm able to give that. And, you know, we can go into the whole psychology of it, and it's we could spend days here. I know we don't have that. But really, at the end of the day, it's growing ourselves out of selfishness, because we're all selfish.
And that's what you do. That's what you do with
100%.
all over the world as much as you can.
100%. That's exactly what we do. That's where we specialize, is we look at developing the leader from the inside, not on the outside. All these skills, these leadership skills, Audrey, you know, I mean, you've been in this game for a long, long time, but all these leadership skills have been around for years and years and years. The challenge isn't on the outside. The challenge is on the inside. Do we have leaders, authentic leaders, who are able to say this is right and this is wrong, and pay the consequence of making a decision that way? Today, we find that most of our leaders look for the political correctness of things. Whether they align with truth, whether they align with principles, whether they align with values is immaterial. It's, am I politically correct? Am I going to be popular? Am I going to get the vote? Etc., etc. And so, unfortunately, because we have these kind of leaders, we have people who are blind, who are leading the blind.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, you know, continuing.
Perpetual, and it just...
Yeah, it's extremely perpetual.
Okay, Dave, you've given us so much already, but I'm still going to ask you, second last question is to share
Sure.
a principle or a model or an exercise that leaders can implement in their lives in order to be a more authentic leader, in order to go inside maybe, in order to build that character inside the bottle. I mean, what would you share with us?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I'd like that we start with, if you like, Adrian, is actually helping people to actually identify what they value consciously. Now, it's not thumb-sucking a value, because you tend to find in a lot of organizations, you get your executives together and they thumb-suck a value. You know, it sounds good if we have integrity, or it sounds good if we have customer excellence, or whatever the case may be. And we thumbsuck that. We say, now these are our values, make them yours. We're not talking about that. We're talking about helping an Adrian Groenewald or a Dave Boreham to genuinely understand what it is they consciously value. And then, once you can do that, once you know what your values are, how are you going to align your life to those values? And so everything needs to be fed by your values, everything. Otherwise, your vision, if you have a vision, is not going to be aligned to your values. And often you find that as I coach executives, often a lot of them tell me they put the ladder up against the wall and they discovered when they got to the top of the ladder that it's been against the wrong wall. Now they have to change that, but they don't, because the change is too difficult to make when you're at the top of the ladder. So what we do is we take people through a very powerful exercise, Adrian, that helps them to consciously determine their values. That's the first step that we go into. All that is part of helping people to become more self-aware of who they really are, what they really are. If people realized how powerful they really are, if people were really aware, we wouldn't have this lack mentality. We wouldn't have this fear, this concern about who's going to look after me, what's going to happen to me, looking for the saviors who are going to build a wall across Mexico and now I'm safe again, and so on and so forth. Looking for these people that are going to wave a magic wand and take all my problems away. When we take back responsibility for ourselves and who we are, that's when we start to experience real freedom. As Mandela told us, he said, with freedom comes responsibility. And when we're responsible, we then feel free.
Mm.
Problem is the unaware think it's freedom from responsibility. And that's why they're never, ever free.
Dave, thank you so much. To close off with, if we look at the next decade, what else do you think on a broader scale we need to do in order to expedite the emergence of authentic leaders and to eradicate toxic, weak leadership over the next decade? Is there anything else more on a broader scale? Education? I mean, anything that you think we need to look at?
You know what, Adrian? I think the number one, we've got to get the families back together again. We've got to get the homes right. We really and truly do. It all starts in the home. It's a very, very powerful principle there. The problem is that if we expect, so many people expect the educators to educate their kids and to teach them principles and values and so on and so forth. Educators are there to reinforce them, not to teach them. Families, parents have that responsibility. And most parents today are negating that responsibility. They give their children an iPad or a cell phone or a TV or a computer, and they give them the games that go with it, and they say, now get on with it. And now we sit with this almost lost generation again of how do we deal with all these things in life? Because when they get into the real world, they discover that the real world isn't a computer game. They have to really deal with issues, principles, values that they haven't been taught. And if we're not teaching that in the homes, we can't develop leaders. Or then it's impossible. We cannot develop leaders that are going to be able to say, hang on, Dave, that's not correct. We have to get rid of corruption, or we have to get rid of this, or we have to do these things that need to be sorted out, etc. So today, we have leaders who get together, and because they're scared, they associate with people like that, and they all back each other in being corrupt or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's a situation that can easily make one feel depressed, but we've got to go back to the basics. As you say, I believe the home is the first school of leadership, but that school is not doing too well. And go right back to your initial statements of authentic leaders. It's managing yourself. And if we look at how we're raising the kids, are they learning to manage themselves with all this electronic devices? Are they learning to manage other relationships with people? No, not necessarily. And do they know their values? And can they align their lives to their values? What they really value most, their true intent. Dave Boreham, thank you so much. We can talk a lot more, and we will in the future. You've added great value. We appreciate it from MCA Training International. We're grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's nice chatting with you.
Yeah, I look forward to sharing it with the world.
Good.
Well, thanks, everyone. That's Dave Boreham. And of course, this is for our Hash 2020 DAL, Decade of Authentic Leadership. And it's our Hash Global Leadership Conversation 2. How do we multiply authentic leaders all over the world in the next decade as fast as we can, as best as we can? And thank you for listening. Cheers.